Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630.
WMAL.
7:07 on the Morning Majority, and we have Katie McFarland with us, a national security expert extraordinaire. Katie, how you doing this morning?
Good morning.
Hey, good to talk to you. Did you watch the president's press conference yesterday?
Indeed.
He was quite.
He was a little snippy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Somebody else used a different word.
Right, that's a better word. Mark Halpern on Morning Joe this morning.
Reminded me of my kids when they had been caught red-handed.
Well, and he was very dismissive about concerns about the Libya operation, saying this is a fuss over politics, sounding like a very different man than he did several years ago about military operations, saying,
red-handed in a fiasco. I mean, this really should be his Bay of Pigs, but the mainstream media won't treat it as that. But what he's done is he's sort of violated every commandment of warfare, right? His military commanders told him, don't do it, it's going to be more complicated. His intelligence guys, and I heard this from senior officials at the CIA, his intelligence guys said, don't think Gaddafi is going to leave if you drop a few bombs on his head. This is his idea of a really great way to govern. He can be the Libyan Lawrence of Arabia, going around those flowing robes, pretending he's the desert fighter fighting off the infidel invader. So don't think he's going to lead easy, fast, or quick. And so that was the Congress. He didn't even ask Congress. That flew in the face of everything we've learned in Vietnam, we learned in the Reagan administration, the Weinberger Doctrine, which I drafted, where you always want to get the support of the American people through Congress. And there was no clear, and sort of the two most critical points, we have no vital interest in Libya, and there was no clear mission.
What did you think about his estimation that the noose is indeed tightening around Gaddafi's neck?
I think the noose is tightening around Obama. The noose is, Gaddafi will eventually go, but only because Obama's going to accidentally drop on his head. What have we gotten out of this? What we've shown is what are the lessons the world takes from this? If you're Iran, what are you saying? Gee, Gaddafi gave up his nukes. They invaded him. I'm going to hurry up and make my nukes.
Yeah.
If you're any other dictator in the Middle East, you're saying, look, Mubarak, he's stepped aside. He's now going to be tried, maybe executed. Assad, he's fighting it out and killing people. Nobody's touching him. Gaddafi, he's thumbing his nose at everybody. They're trying to get him, but they can't get him. So what am I going to do? I'm never going to compromise. I'm never going to step aside. And then what is the image that you're saying to the world? America leads from behind, but America is a paper tiger and NATO is finished.
Speaking of,
I don't know how you do things much worse than that.
Speaking of Iran and nukes, I mean, this is no big surprise, but it's public now where a Saudi diplomat has said that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, we're going to get one as well.
No choice. I mean, again, the nuclear weapons community, people have realized that if Iran gets nuclear weapons, not only Saudi Arabia, but a number of other countries in the region will feel that they need nuclear weapons too. So you'll have a nuclear arms race in the single most unstable, dangerous part of the world.
I want to ask you about Bob Gates. This is his last, I guess, stepping down as Secretary of Defense. A long and quite impressive career of public service to a number of presidents, both Democratic and Republican. Any thoughts about this moment and this man's career?
I think it's insane. I mean, he's a great guy. We shared an office together in the Nixon and Ford administrations in the White House West basement at the very, in the beginning of his career, and he was one of Kissinger's proteges. I think the great tragedy of it, the great value of it is he has really served his country and politics has stopped at the water's edge. And he's done a great job of speaking truth to power. He's done a great job of reforming the Pentagon and making some very tough calls against the entrenched interests sometimes of the military-industrial complex. But I think the great tragedy is that he started his sort of rise in the major, the sort of VIP part of government at the end of the Vietnam War. I remember 1975 when we were evacuating people from the roof of the Saigon embassy, and he's ending his career with another land war that we can't seem to get out of, but we can't seem to win.
Afghanistan, obviously there was the bombing of a hotel in Kabul the other day. We've been talking with the Taliban and trying to win the Taliban over. How does this help in negotiations? I know this was the Haqqani network, which we don't really talk to specifically, but still.
That's the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
I was in Afghanistan 2 months ago and was, at the Intercontinental Hotel, which, by the way, I refused to stay at because I thought it was unsafe. I think that you're seeing the very beginnings of what will be a protracted civil war in Afghanistan. One of the leaders, if you look at not just the bombing itself, but the two other things that happened. The head of the Bank of Afghanistan, corrupt as could be, they're all corrupt. He's now fled, and everybody's going to say it was his fault. So you realize that the bucket that you're pouring all the aid into and the money into, it's got a big hole at the bottom. Secondly, Karzai's courts disqualified the winners of the parliamentary election, but only the winners who were from the Uzbek, Hazara, and Tajik tribes, and took the second runner-up, which was all his tribesmen. So Karzai is consolidating power. And then, again, the fact that it was a bombing at the symbol of the heart of the Kabul, the Karzai presidency, that's the hotel that all the Afghan diaspora went to after the Taliban had been defeated in 2001. That's where they formed the new government. So to be able to, for the Haqqani network to show that they can, on the eve of a conference designed to with a schedule to turn over security to the Karzai government, and the Haqqani network showing that they can go blithely in there and start murdering people, I think you're seeing the beginning steps of a civil war.
It's a lot closer to home than Afghanistan, but it's a national security issue nonetheless. There's a story out this morning that some guy from Nigeria had a fake ID and he some kind of fake boarding pass, and he talked his way right onto a plane in New York, and this comes at a time, of course, when we are taking 95-year-old grandmothers
and patting them down
because they're wearing adult diapers.
Yeah, and 3-year-old kids who are on their way to Disney World and taking their teddy bears. I think the whole thing about security is a couple. We're not using any common sense here. Why are we devoting all these billions of dollars of resources to pat down Granny in diapers and the 3-year-old on his way to Disney World? What we need to do is profile, not racially profile, terrorist profile. And if you go to Israel, they don't pat anybody down.
No, they don't.
They don't pat anybody down. They don't racially profile because, as the head of Israeli security told me, everybody looks the same in our part of the world.
Yeah.
We can't tell one group from, the Muslims from the Jews. So they have to terrorist profile. They look for behavior patterns. We have not done that. And the fact that we're wasting our resources patting down Granny, and we're not focusing our resources in looking for the Nigerian with no passport who hasn't checked luggage, who's bought his ticket with cash and has gone in and out of bad parts of the world on a frequent basis. I mean, we're not only are we wasting our money, but we're preventing ourselves from looking where we need to look.
All right, KT. Good to talk to you as always. We always appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst here with the Morning Majority.